I'm taking everything. She didn't whisper it. She didn't hesitate. Carla Frettel stood in my kitchen 11 days after I buried her son and pointed, slowly, deliberately, at the ceiling, the walls, the hardwood floor beneath her heels. The house. The firm. Every account. Every dollar Joel built. Her finger stopped midair. Everything, Hannah, except the child. Except the child. She said it the way someone declines dessert. No guilt. No tremor. No apology. She wasn't mine to begin with. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere down the hallway, Tessa was singing to herself in the bath, off-key, innocent, 4 years old and unaware that her grandmother had just erased her from the family ledger. My name is Miriam Frettel. I'm 31 years old. And until recently, I believed grief was the worst thing that could happen to a woman. I was wrong. Covington, Kentucky sits quietly across the Ohio River from Cincinnati. It's the kind of place where neighbors wave from driveways and remember what you paid for your house better than you do. Joel and I bought ours 7 years ago. Brick exterior. White shutters. A dogwood tree that bloomed every April like clockwork. Carla reminded us frequently that her $30,000 gift had made that possible. She never called it help. She called it investment. Joel Frettel built his law firm from nothing. Well, nothing except a $185,000 loan from his mother and 6,000 hours of relentless ambition. He started in a cramped rented office above a flooring store on Madison Avenue. Clients would sit across from him while someone downstairs debated laminate patterns. Every consultation came with the faint echo of tile samples clacking together. 5 years later, the firm moved into a proper suite on Scott Boulevard. Frettel and Associates. His name etched into the glass door. Carla liked to remind people who paid for that door. Joel billed over $600,000 a year by then. Personal injury law. Car accidents. Slip and falls. Insurance battles. He was good at it, calm in chaos, methodical under pressure. He planned for other people's disasters. He just didn't get to plan for his own. March 6, Thursday evening. Cardiac arrest. They found him slumped at his desk, hands still curled around a coffee mug. He was 36. I got the call while rinsing shampoo out of Tessa's hair. I drove to the office with soap still under my fingernails and wet sleeves clinging to my arms. By the time I arrived, the paramedics were packing up. There is a sound a body makes when hope leaves a room. It is very quiet. The funeral was the following Wednesday. Carla wore oversized black Chanel sunglasses indoors. The kind that conceal everything: eyes, intention, sincerity. Spencer stood beside her. Joel's younger brother. 29 years old. Chronically unemployed. Permanent resident of Carla's guest house in Burlington. He looked less like a grieving sibling and more like a student waiting outside the principal's office. Carla, however, did not look lost. She looked alert. Calculating. You need to understand something about her. Carla Frettel was not fragile. After divorcing Joel's father, she built 4 dry cleaning stores across northern Kentucky from scratch. She understood profit margins. Overhead. Cash flow. Clothes come in dirty. Clothes go out clean. Money lands in the register. Simple math. She applied that same formula to Joel's firm. To her, it was just another storefront. Instead of pressing shirts, you pressed lawsuits. Instead of quarters, you collected settlement checks. And in her mind, she had paid for the machines. She never liked me. From our first Thanksgiving together, I was a placeholder. A legal secretary. Middle-class upbringing. No legacy. No connections. Once, while Joel and I were standing right beside her, she introduced me to her friends as his first wife. Joel corrected her. She laughed like it was a joke. It wasn't. So when she appeared in my kitchen that Monday morning, 11 days after the funeral, wearing a tailored gray blazer like she was attending a board meeting. I shouldn't have been shocked. But grief slows your reflexes. It turns you into someone who absorbs blows you normally would have dodged. Spencer followed her inside carrying a tape measure. An actual tape measure. While Carla explained her intentions at my kitchen island, Spencer wandered down the hallway measuring the guest bedroom closet. The metallic snap of the tape echoed through the house. I remember thinking, what does he even own that requires measurements? The most valuable thing he possessed was a gaming chair. Carla spoke with rehearsed composure. The firm was built with my capital. The house required my assistance. Joel would have wanted things structured appropriately. Structured. Like we were a misplaced file. And the child? I asked quietly. She adjusted her cuff. I didn't sign up to raise someone else's responsibility. Not someone else's responsibility. Her granddaughter. I held a mug of coffee that had gone cold 20 minutes earlier and said nothing. Because my brain could not process losing my husband and being audited in the same month. 2 days later, a certified letter arrived. Axel Mendler. Attorney at law. Carla had formally contested Joel's will. She also filed a creditor's claim for her $185,000 loan. Kitchen conversation had escalated to courtroom artillery in under 48 hours. The flowers on Joel's grave had not even wilted. And she didn't stop there. The week after filing, Carla drove to Fredel and Associates and walked in like she owned the building. 4 employees. 2 paralegals. 1 receptionist. Gail Horvath, the bookkeeper who had been with Joel for 6 years. Carla announced she was assuming oversight. Print the revenue reports, she told Gail. Gail printed them. $620,000 annual billings. Carla nodded. Satisfied. She never asked for expense reports. Never asked about liabilities. Never opened the folder labeled outstanding obligations. It was like checking your bank app, seeing deposits, and deciding you're wealthy without glancing at debt. Then she began calling Joel's clients. Introducing herself as the person managing the transition. She had no authority. No law license. No comprehension of case files. But Carla believed competence equaled competence. Within days, clients transferred out. Revenue evaporated. She was dismantling the very business she claimed to protect. Like someone setting fire to a house while arguing with insurance about its value. Then Spencer arrived. 1 week after her office visit, he pulled into my driveway in Carla's Buick Enclave. 2 duffel bags. A PlayStation. A large bag of barbecue chips. He knocked once and announced, "Mom says this place is basically ours now." He had not brought sheets. Or a pillow. Or a job application. I told him to leave. He refused. I called the Covington police. 2 officers confirmed the house was in Joel's name and that I was the surviving spouse. They escorted Spencer back to the Buick. He left the chips on the porch. I threw them away. That night, Carla called. Her voice climbed into a frequency I didn't know was humanly possible. "You threw Joel's brother onto the street." "Spencer lives in your guest house," I replied evenly. Silence. Then a click. My own family began pushing me. My mother drove up from Lexington. "Honey," she said at the same kitchen table where Carla staged her takeover, "you have to fight." My best friend Shannon repeated it nightly. "Get a lawyer. Get a shark." So I did. L.R.A. Schmidt. German-American. Mid-50s. Silver-streaked hair and precision in her posture. 20 years handling estate disputes. She reviewed Carla's filings in 40 minutes. "It's beatable," she said calmly. "No partnership agreement. No written equity. Clean will." "We fight," she said, and she walks away with nothing but a lesson. I told her I needed time. That night, After Tessa fell asleep clutching Joel's old t-shirt, I drove to the office. 9:07 p.m. The building was dark except for exit signs glowing green. I unlocked Joel's private office and stepped inside. It still smelled like sandalwood and coffee. I sat at his desk. Opened the bottom. Behind old case files was a sealed manila envelope. My name written in his handwriting. Miriam. A small heart next to it. I opened it. And as I read, something inside me shifted. Not grief. Not rage. Clarity. When I finished, I did not cry. I did not panic. I sat perfectly still in that silent office for nearly an hour. For the first time since March 6th. My mind was steady. The next morning, I called LRA. My voice didn't shake. I've changed my mind, I told her. I don't want to fight. I pause. I want to give Carla everything. Silence. 10 full seconds. For a woman who bills by the hour, she finally said, "That's concerning." I closed my eyes. Because what Joel left me in that envelope wasn't surrender. It was strategy. And Carla had no idea she'd already lost. LRA didn't speak at first. She let the silence stretch between us like a wire pulled too tight. "You want to surrender?" she asked carefully. "Yes." "You understand she's trying to dismantle you financially?" "Yes." "And you'd like to help her?" I slid the manila envelope across her desk. "Not help," I said quietly. "Accelerate." Inside the envelope were 3 things. The first was a letter. Handwritten. Dated 5 weeks before Joel died. It wasn't legal language. It wasn't instructions. It wasn't fear. It was love. He wrote about Tessa calling butterflies flutterbees. He said he never corrected her because he liked the world through her version of it better. He wrote about our kitchen window and the way morning light hits the counter at exactly 8:12 a.m., turning the cheap laminate into something that looks like polished gold. He wrote about the first day we met, me at the front desk of Bernstein and Kellogg, him a junior associate pretending he had paperwork just so he could walk past my desk 4 times. He asked me to lunch 4 times. I said no 4 times. I had a rule about not dating lawyers. He wrote that breaking that rule was the best mistake I ever made. The last line of the letter was simple. Don't let her take what matters. She can have the rest. No explanations. Just trust. Joel knew me. He knew I would understand once I saw the rest. The second item was a stack of beneficiary confirmations. Life insurance policy. $875,000. He'd taken it out at 30 when the bank required collateral for the firm's startup loan. Back then he was young, clean bill of health, easy underwriting. In the final months of his life, he updated the beneficiary. 1 form. 1 signature. No new medical exam required. The payout would go directly to me. Not through probate. Not through the estate. Untouchable. He had done the same thing with his retirement accounts. 401k, $152,000. Roth IRA, $58,000. Both updated. Both designated solely to me. Direct transfer. Outside the estate. Outside Carla's reach. Total, $1,085,000. Clean. Legal. Immediate. Joel didn't hide money. He organized it. The third item was the one that made my pulse slow instead of race. A financial summary of Fredel and Associates. Handwritten in his meticulous script. Every debt. Every obligation. Every number he never discussed at Sunday dinners. Revenue, $620,000 annually. That's the number Carla memorized. That's the number she repeated like gospel. But revenue isn't profit. Revenue is noise. Profit is truth. Here was the truth. $15,000 accumulated vendor debt. $180,000 malpractice settlement already negotiated before his death. Payment pending. $47,000 unpaid payroll taxes. The IRS does not forget payroll taxes. $142,800 remaining on the office lease. 34 months at $4,200 per month. Non-cancelable. Then the house. Market value, roughly $385,000. Mortgage balance, $160,000. Home equity line Joel took 18 months ago to stabilize cash flow, $220,000. Total debt, $380,000. After realtor fees, closing costs, taxes. The house would net nothing. Maybe negative. And Carla's $185,000 loan? Unsecured. No lien. No collateral. No partnership agreement. She was last in line. Behind the IRS. Behind malpractice claimants. Behind vendors. Behind the landlord. By the time the dust settled, there would be nothing left for her. Joel had seen it coming. The firm looked strong on paper. It was structurally tired underneath. He had been planning to restructure. He ran out of time. LRA finished reading. She took off her glasses. Then she laughed. Not politely. Not professionally. The kind of laugh that fogs lenses. Your husband, she said, was brilliant. I felt something shift inside me. Not vengeance. Balance. Carla thought she was seizing a gold mine. She was demanding ownership of a sinking ship. And I was about to hand her the captain's wheel. Offer her everything, I told LRA. The firm. The house. The estate accounts. All of it. In exchange? Full sole custody of Tessa. No visitation. LRA's eyes sharpened. She'll agree, I said. Why are you so certain? Because she doesn't want Tessa. And because Carla doesn't walk away from a deal she believes she's winning. Axel Mendler was not careless. When LRA presented the settlement, he hesitated. Why is she surrendering? He asked. Grief, LRA replied smoothly. She's overwhelmed. Axel requested 2 weeks for a forensic audit of the firm's finances. 2 weeks. That's all he needed. Carla refused. From her perspective, delay meant risk. The widow might change her mind. The numbers might shift. Opportunity might evaporate. She had watched me for 7 years. Quiet. Polite. Passive. She believed surrender was my nature. She believed she was the predator. So she signed. The settlement moved quickly after that. Legal paperwork formalized what she thought was triumph. The house would transfer through estate restructuring. Control of Fredel and Associates would pass pending court approval. Estate bank accounts would be relinquished. In exchange, full custody of Tessa. No visitation rights for Carla. Permanent withdrawal of will contest. It looked like I had folded. Even my own mother looked at me with confusion. Are you sure? She asked. Yes. You're giving away your home. I'm keeping my daughter. She didn't understand the math. That was fine. Carla didn't either. The day Carla walked into court to finalize the agreement, she wore navy instead of black. Victory color. Spencer followed behind her carrying a leather portfolio he clearly had not purchased himself. She avoided eye contact with me. Victors don't look at the defeated. The judge approved the custody terms first. Full sole custody to Miriam Fredel, he stated. No visitation granted to the paternal grandmother. Carla's jaw tightened slightly at the wording. But she said nothing. Because in her mind, she was acquiring something bigger. 3 weeks later, the insurance payout cleared. Direct deposit. No probate delay. No contest. $875,000. 2 days after that, retirement funds transferred. $210,000. I moved Tessa and myself into a modest townhouse across town. Smaller yard. Fewer memories. Peaceful. Meanwhile, Carla took possession of the house. And the firm. And the liabilities. At first, she celebrated. She hosted a small gathering at the house. Champagne in the kitchen where she once declared ownership. Spencer bragged about expanding the practice. Carla told neighbors she was preserving Joel's legacy. But legacies come with invoices. And the first one arrived faster than she expected. Certified mail. IRS. $47,000 in unpaid payroll taxes. Due immediately. Trust fund taxes. Personal liability attached to responsible parties. She called Axel. Axel asked if she had reviewed the expense reports before signing. She had not. Then came the malpractice claimant's attorney. Demanding the $180,000 settlement Joel had agreed to. Then the landlord. Then vendors. Then payroll processors. Each letter another crack in the foundation. Revenue had already collapsed because of her client calls. There was no cash flow. Only obligations. She tried to bring Spencer into the office to help manage operations. He lasted 4 days before accidentally sending a settlement demand email to the wrong client. 2 more clients transferred out. 1 month after finalization, Carla attempted to list the house. The realtor walked her through the math. After liens and debt resolution, there would be nothing left. Possibly a shortfall. Carla's voice reportedly rose 3 octaves during that conversation. She called me that evening. I let it ring twice before answering. You knew, she said. Not a question. A statement. I watched Tessa coloring at the dining table. I knew what? The debts. The firm. The taxes. Yes. Silence. You tricked me. No, I replied calmly. You insisted. Her breathing shifted. Faster now. You could have warned me. I thought of the kitchen. The pointing finger. The words except the child. I did warn you, I said softly. You just weren't listening. By the end of that quarter, Fredel and Associates officially closed. Carla negotiated partial payment plans with creditors. Her $185,000 loan was gone. Not legally recoverable. The house entered short sale. Spencer quietly returned to living exclusively in her guest house. And me? I opened a small legal consulting practice from home. Part-time. Selective. Enough to stay active. Enough to stay sharp. The insurance money stayed invested. Tessa started kindergarten. She still calls butterflies flutterbees. But here's the thing about pride. It doesn't die quietly. It simmers. And Carla was not finished. Not with me. Not yet. Because when someone realizes they've lost, they either accept it or they escalate. And Carla Fredel had never accepted a loss in her life. Carla did not accept defeat. She rebranded it. 3 months after the firm collapsed, rumors started drifting through Covington like slow-moving smoke. At the bakery. At church. At the grocery store where people pretend not to stare but always listen. Miriam forced Carla into a bad deal. Miriam manipulated a grieving mother. Miriam stole Joel's legacy. The word stole spread fastest. I began noticing the pauses. Conversations that stopped when I approached. Sympathy that felt rehearsed. Covington is small enough that reputations move faster than facts. Carla understood that. If she couldn't win legally, she would win socially. The first public move came disguised as vulnerability. Carla joined a local grief support group. Not because she needed comfort. Because she needed an audience. Within weeks, stories surfaced, carefully edited ones. She told them she had sacrificed everything to build her son's firm. She told them she was cut off from her only grandchild. She never mentioned the custody exchange. Never mentioned that she declined visitation. She framed herself as abandoned. And in a small town, the grieving mother narrative is powerful. Stronger than spreadsheets. Stronger than settlement documents. Then came the church incident. I was picking Tessa up from Sunday school when Mrs. Caldwell, the woman who organizes every bake sale within a 20-mile radius, touched my arm gently. "I'm so sorry about the family tension," she said softly. "What tension?" I asked. She hesitated. "Carla says you won't let her see Tessa." There it was. Not accusation. Concern. The kind that spreads quietly. I replied calmly. She declined. Mrs. Caldwell nodded, but her eyes weren't convinced. Perception had shifted. Carla was playing the long game now. And she was good at it. The escalation came in the form of paperwork. Certified mail. The $250,000 policy changed the temperature of the room. Not legally. But psychologically. Carla had already been paid. 3 weeks after Joel died, while I was still washing his coffee mugs because I couldn't bear to leave them untouched, she had deposited $250,000. And then she looked me in the eye and claimed financial devastation. That wasn't oversight. That was narrative engineering. I didn't tell her we knew. Not yet. Instead, LRA filed a motion requesting financial disclosures tied to the visitation petition. If Carla was arguing that maintaining a relationship with Tessa required financial contribution or support capacity, then her full financial status became relevant. Axel objected. Of course he did. But once a petitioner claims emotional hardship connected to financial strain, courts can widen the lens. The judge granted limited disclosure. Carla would have to produce statements. Assets. Outstanding loans. Insurance proceeds. When she realized what that meant, she called me. Not screaming this time. Controlled. Careful. "You're trying to embarrass me." "No," I said evenly. "I'm trying to clarify the record. You already took everything." There it was again. The rewritten version. "I didn't take anything," I replied. "You signed for it." Silence. Her breathing tightened. "You're punishing me." "No," I said softly. "I'm protecting my daughter." Financial documents began arriving in waves. The $250,000 payout confirmed. Deposited. Transferred. Partially used to service business debts. Partially moved into personal accounts. Meanwhile, she had taken 2 high-interest private loans to keep the house from foreclosure before the short sale finalized. Her dry cleaning stores? 1 sold. 2 underperforming. 1 barely breaking even. Spencer listed as an operations consultant on payroll. He was drawing $3,500 a month. For consulting. On what? No one seemed certain. Pressure was mounting. And pressure reveals cracks. The court-appointed evaluator met with Tessa twice. Observed her home environment. Spoke with teachers. Spoke with Carla. Spoke with me. Carla presented as affectionate. Generous. Wounded. She brought old photo albums. Told stories about Joel as a child. But the evaluator asked one simple question that shifted everything. When did you begin seeking visitation? Carla hesitated. After the estate resolution. And before that? I was overwhelmed. The evaluator noted it. Timing matters. Always. Meanwhile, Covington gossip had begun shifting again. Because financial strain is hard to hide in a small town. The short sale sign in front of the house. The sudden liquidation of store inventory. The quiet downsizing. And whispers began. Maybe Miriam didn't steal anything. Maybe Carla miscalculated. Narratives are fragile. They flip when enough cracks show. The final custody hearing was scheduled for early spring. 1 year after Joel's death. Anniversaries amplify emotion. Carla wore gray. Neutral. Strategic. But she looked tired. Not defeated. Just thinner around the edges. Spencer wasn't there. Apparently, he had taken a business opportunity in Florida. Which in Spencer's language meant someone else was funding his rent. Axel sat beside Carla, composed but visibly cautious. LRA sat beside me, calm as ever. The evaluator presented first. Tessa was thriving. Stable. Secure attachment to primary caregiver. No behavioral red flags. Strong peer integration at school. Then came the critical observation. Petitioner's initial refusal of visitation during estate negotiations raises questions regarding consistency of intent. Carla's jaw tightened. The evaluator continued. While grandparents can provide meaningful support, the timing suggests that financial conflict may have influenced relational decisions. Not accusation. Not condemnation. But implication. And in court, implication can be lethal. Axel tried to redirect. He argued that grief clouds judgment. That Carla's earlier statements were made under emotional distress. That bonds evolve. Then LRA stood. She didn't attack. She clarified. She introduced the insurance policy payout. Axel objected. The judge allowed it, limited scope. Mrs. Frettel, LRA asked calmly, you received $250,000 from a life insurance policy on your son 3 weeks after his death. Correct? Carla's eyes flicked toward Axel. Yes. And yet, in your initial filings, you described yourself as financially devastated by the estate outcome. Correct? Silence. Yes. Did you disclose that payout in your visitation petition? No. Why not? Carla's voice thinned. It wasn't relevant. The judge leaned forward slightly. Financial stability is often relevant in family court. Carla swallowed. LRA didn't push further. She didn't need to. The room had shifted. The narrative had shifted. This was no longer grieving grandmother versus cold widow. This was strategic petitioner versus documented pattern. Then the judge spoke directly to Carla. Mrs. Frettel, I'm trying to understand the sequence. You declined visitation when assets were at issue. You sought visitation after assets transferred. You received a substantial insurance payout. You did not disclose it. Help me reconcile that. Carla opened her mouth. Closed it. For a woman who once filled rooms effortlessly. She had nothing. Because the truth was simple. Her fight had always been about ownership. Of assets. Of legacy. Of narrative. And when ownership slipped, she reached for the only thing left. Tessa. The ruling came 2 weeks later. Petition denied. No court-ordered visitation. However, the judge left the door open for voluntary contact if initiated by me. Control returned to its rightful place. With the parent. Not the investor. Carla didn't call. Not immediately. Pride is loud. But silence can be louder. 3 months passed. Then 6. No new filings. No new rumors. Just distance. One afternoon in late summer, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. It was quieter than I remembered. I made mistakes, Carla said. No theatrics. No octave climb. Just fatigue. I confused control with care. I didn't respond immediately. Because apologies are delicate things. They can be strategy. Or they can be surrender. I won't ask for visitation, she continued. If you ever decide, I'll be here. It wasn't redemption. But it was awareness. And awareness is the first fracture in pride. That night, Tessa asked about her grandmother. Does Grandma Carla still live in the big house? No, I said gently. Where does she live? In a smaller one. Tessa considered this. Is she sad? Maybe. Tessa nodded thoughtfully. Maybe she just needs a flutterbee. Children reduce complexity to something manageable. Adults complicate what love tries to simplify. I stood at the kitchen window that evening. The light hit the counter at 8:12. Golden. Exactly as Joel described. He had planned. Not revenge. Not destruction. Protection. He understood something Carla never did. Legacy isn't property. It isn't revenue. It isn't square footage. It's the people who remain steady when everything else collapses. Carla tried to take everything. She took the firm. She took the house. She took the debt. She took the illusion of victory. What she couldn't take was what mattered. And in the end, that's the only thing that counts. Petition for grandparent visitation rights. Filed under Kentucky statute allowing grandparents to request court-ordered visitation if it serves the child's best interest. I stared at the document for a long time. The ink looked fresh. Aggressive. Calculated. Carla had pivoted. She couldn't undo the financial disaster. But she could re-enter my life through Tessa. And this time, she would use the law properly. I called LRA. She's filing for visitation, I said. A pause. That was inevitable, LRA replied. She signed no visitation in the settlement. Yes, LRA said evenly. But courts prioritize children's best interest over private agreements. Translation. The fight wasn't over. It had evolved. Carla's petition painted a portrait of me I barely recognized. Emotionally unstable widow. Financially reckless. Isolating child from paternal family. She cited the firm's collapse as evidence of my incompetence. She implied I manipulated Joel during his illness. That line made my hands tremble. Joel chose everything he did. He orchestrated it. But grief distorts narratives. And Carla knew how to weaponize distortion. The hearing was scheduled for late September. 4 months after the settlement. In that time, Carla prepared. Character witnesses from church. Letters from old clients who remembered her generosity. Spencer, coached and rehearsed. I prepared differently. Documentation. Financial independence statements. Proof of stable housing. School reports showing Tessa thriving. But evidence alone doesn't win family court. Emotion does. Judges read energy as much as affidavits. Carla would cry. I knew that. She had perfected the art of visible sorrow. The morning of the hearing, Tessa asked why I was wearing serious clothes. Because sometimes adults have to talk to a judge, I told her. Like on TV? Yes. Did someone break a rule? I knelt to her level. No, sweetheart. We're just making sure everyone remembers what matters. She nodded like that made perfect sense. Children trust stability. I had to be that. Courtroom 3B felt smaller than I remembered. Carla wore beige this time. Soft. Non-threatening. Spencer sat behind her, jaw tight. When the judge entered, Carla's composure cracked exactly on cue. Tears. Controlled. Measured. She spoke about Joel as a boy. About how she held him the first night home from the hospital. About dreams she had for him. She described Tessa as the last piece of him left in this world. The phrasing was deliberate. Possessive. Strategic. When it was my turn, I didn't cry. I didn't accuse. I didn't counterattack. I simply told the truth. Carla declined visitation in exchange for assets. She made that choice. I honored it. Tessa was stable. Happy. Safe. I wasn't isolating her. I was protecting consistency. Then LRA did something unexpected. She introduced the settlement transcript. Specifically, the moment Carla verbally affirmed she did not seek involvement with the child. Axel objected. The judge allowed it. Carla's own recorded voice filled the quiet courtroom. I have no desire for visitation. I'm only concerned with business assets. Silence. Heavy. The judge looked at Carla. Why the change? He asked. Carla hesitated. For the first time. She didn't have a script. Her answer was weak. I didn't realize how much I'd miss her. The judge studied her. Family court judges develop instincts sharper than cross-examinations. He asked one final question. Mrs. Frettel, if the estate assets had not transferred to you, would you be here today requesting visitation? The room went still. Even Spencer stopped breathing. Carla opened her mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. She never finished the sentence. Because the truth hovered between us all. The judge denied immediate visitation. He ordered a 6-month evaluation period instead. Supervised sessions contingent on counseling. Not a victory. Not a loss. A pause. But in legal warfare, a pause is breathing room. And I used it. That evening, I sat at my townhouse kitchen table. The light hit the counter at 8:12 p.m. Golden. Like Joel described. I thought about the envelope. About the sentence that changed everything. Don't let her take what matters. Carla was trying again. Different angle. Same objective. Control. But something had shifted. She had expected a passive widow. She found resistance. Measured. Strategic. And now, she was frustrated. Frustration makes people careless. And careless people reveal weaknesses. 3 weeks later, one of Carla's former dry cleaning managers contacted me. Confidentially. Apparently, Carla had begun liquidating business assets to cover debt. Selling equipment below market value. Taking short-term high-interest loans. Her financial pressure was mounting. And pressure changes behavior. Spencer had started arguing publicly with her. Neighbors heard shouting. The perfect facade was cracking. Then came the anonymous tip. A message left on my voicemail late one night. You might want to look into the insurance policy Carla took out on Joel years ago. My heart slowed. Joel had mentioned something once. A small policy his mother insisted on when he first started law school. I called LRA immediately. If there was a secondary policy, she said, and Carla is beneficiary. The sentence trailed off. Because that would change everything. Motivation. Intent. Timeline. We requested records. Quietly. Legally. And what we discovered wasn't illegal. But it was revealing. Carla had maintained a $250,000 policy on Joel since his 20s. She was still the beneficiary. It had paid out. 3 weeks after his death. She never mentioned it. Not during the settlement. Not during visitation petitions. Nothing. She had already received $250,000. And still claimed financial devastation. Still claimed emotional loss. Still claimed she needed Tessa as her only remaining connection. That wasn't grief. That was leverage. I didn't confront her immediately. I waited. Because timing matters more than outrage. Carla believed she was regaining momentum. She believed the evaluation period would eventually secure her supervised access. She believed public opinion was tilting back in her favor. And people are most vulnerable right before they feel safe again. 6 months would pass quickly. And when they did, the final hearing would determine whether Carla re-entered my daughter's life. But by then, I wouldn't just be defending. I would be presenting something far more dangerous. Proof of motive. Proof of pattern. Proof that Carla's fight was never about love. It was about ownership. And ownership can be dismantled. A year and a half after Joel died, the dogwood tree bloomed again. Not in front of my old house. In memory. Because the house was gone. The firm was gone. The glass door with Frettel and Associates etched across it was gone. But every April, I still pictured that tree. White petals. Fragile. Temporary. Like pride. People in Covington eventually stopped whispering. Small towns have short attention spans for other people's tragedies. A new scandal replaced ours. A new rumor. A new family implosion. Carla's name drifted out of conversations the way smoke thins in open air. She downsized quietly. Closed another dry cleaning location. Stopped hosting holiday dinners. Spencer's Florida business opportunity dissolved within 6 months. He resurfaced briefly, then disappeared again, funded, rumor said, by whatever remained of Carla's savings. But here's the truth no one talks about. Losing publicly is one thing. Losing privately is another. And Carla lost privately. The first time I saw her after the final ruling was accidental. Grocery store. Late afternoon. I was comparing cereal prices. Tessa was in the cart, debating between marshmallows and chocolate clusters. Carla turned the corner of aisle 5. She looked smaller. Not physically. Energetically. For a split second, the old tension sparked, like static before lightning. Then she saw Tessa. And something in her face softened in a way I had never witnessed before. Not performance. Not calculation. Just distance. She didn't approach. She didn't dramatize. She simply stood there, hands gripping her shopping cart handle, and nodded once. It wasn't surrender. It wasn't reconciliation. It was acknowledgement. And sometimes acknowledgement is the only closure you get. That night, I reread Joel's letter. The paper had softened at the folds. The ink still steady. Don't let her take what matters. She can have the rest. For a long time, I thought that line meant strategy. Then I realized it meant something else. Joel didn't prepare me for revenge. He prepared me for detachment. Carla believed assets equaled power. Joel understood something she didn't. Power isn't what you hold. It's what you don't need to hold. Financially, I was stable. The insurance funds were invested conservatively. The retirement accounts rolled over. My consulting practice grew slowly, intentionally. I didn't rebuild Frettel and Associates. I built something smaller. Something quieter. Something sustainable. I chose clients carefully. No high-risk volume cases. No expansion loans. No fragile empires built on projected revenue. Joel had spent his life litigating other people's disasters. I learned from his. Tessa grew. Kindergarten became first grade. Flutterbees slowly turned back into butterflies. She stopped asking when Daddy was coming home. She started asking what he liked. What was Daddy's favorite color? Blue. Did he like pancakes? Too much. She laughed. Memory transformed from ache to story. That's how healing works. It doesn't erase. It reframes. 2 years after everything unraveled, Carla sent a letter. Not certified. Not notarized. Not drafted by Axel Mendler. Handwritten. Short. Miriam. I handled things poorly. I confused fear with control. I hope one day you'll allow me to apologize to Tessa properly. Carla. No excuses. No references to money. No accusations. Just brevity. I sat with that letter for a long time. Revenge stories usually end with destruction. But real power? Real power ends with choice. And I had it. I didn't rush. Months passed. Then one afternoon, while Tessa colored at the table, she asked, "Does Grandma Carla miss me?" The question wasn't loaded. It was curious. Children don't inherit grudges unless you hand them down. Probably, I said honestly. Can we send her one of my drawings? There it was. The simplest form of mercy. I could have said no. I could have preserved distance. I could have weaponized silence. Instead, I found an envelope. Tessa drew a butterfly. She labeled it carefully. Flutterby. We mailed it. No return address. Just kindness. Carla never responded directly. But a week later, a small package arrived. Inside was a children's book about butterflies. No note. No manipulation. Just a book. And for the first time I understood something fully. Carla's war had never been against me. It had been against irrelevance. She built businesses. Raised sons. Structured her life around control. Then suddenly, her son died. Her firm collapsed. Her authority evaporated. And she panicked. People who build identity around ownership don't know how to survive loss. They grab. They escalate. They overplay their hand. Carla overplayed hers. Joel saw it coming. He didn't fight her. He sidestepped her. And he taught me how to do the same. 3 years later, I bought a new house. Not large. Not flashy. But ours. Tessa planted a dogwood sapling in the yard. It will take years to bloom. Growth always does. Sometimes people ask if I regret giving Carla the firm. The house. The estate. No. Because what I gave her was weight. And what I kept was freedom. She carried debt. I carried peace. She inherited obligation. I inherited clarity. One evening, as the sun lowered behind the trees, Tessa asked a question children eventually ask. Were you mad at Grandma Carla? I thought about it carefully. Yes, I said. For how long? Long enough to learn something. What did you learn? I watched the light hit the kitchen counter. Still golden. Still steady. That when someone tries to take everything from you, you don't always win by fighting. She tilted her head. How do you win then? You let them take what doesn't matter. She considered that. Then nodded like it made perfect sense. Children understand wisdom faster than adults. Carla never fully re-entered our lives. Occasional birthday cards. Holiday books. Carefully neutral. No court orders. No lawsuits. No more certified letters. The war ended not with explosion, but with exhaustion. And sometimes that's the most realistic victory of all. If you're watching this and you've ever felt cornered, financially, emotionally, legally, remember this. Not every attack requires retaliation. Not every threat deserves resistance. And not every loss is actually a loss. Sometimes the most devastating move you can make is stepping aside. Letting someone claim the throne, while you quietly keep the kingdom. Joel built a firm. Carla tried to inherit an empire. But in the end, the only legacy that survived was a little girl who once called butterflies flutterbees. And a mother who learned the difference between ownership and love. End of story.